This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
President Tinubu has been re-elected as chairman of the Economic Community of West African States in a unanimous vote. His re-election comes a day after Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso held their first summit as the Alliance of Sahel States. The three countries say they have, quote, irrevocably turned their backs on ECOWAS. Their insistence remains despite multiple attempts by the bloc to convince them to stay. Our News Extra today, for more analysis, we're joined by Collins Nweke, who's a foreign affairs analyst. Hello and welcome to the conversation, Mr. Nweke.
Nabila, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Let's start off with just the optics, right? President Tinubu being re-elected for another year, and this is just a day after these three states, Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso, said we are definitely not coming back. We spoke about this last time. Your thoughts?
My thought is that it couldn't have been otherwise. President Bola Tinubu, being the chairman of ECOWAS, was said to have been re-elected, notwithstanding what had gone on, and to a large extent, nobody is actually laying the blame for what has happened on his doorsteps. Now, let's be very clear about what has happened just a day before the summit where President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria was re-elected. The three countries that now form the Alliance of Sahel States actually signed a confederation agreement. Now, why is that important? Why is that significant? It's significant because what it actually tells us is that a confederation agreement is even more far-reaching, deeper than even what ECOWAS has. Because ECOWAS is an economic, community, whereas a confederation is even more solid. So we are now seeing a crossover from actions that could be that could be defined as, defiance, actions that are aimed to solidify their positions, to one that actually tells us that the breakdown is irrevocable and that they are out of the ECOWAS, no matter what effort ECOWAS does to bring them back in.
So, Mr. Nweke, I understand the analysis that you've laid on the table, but one would think that if for ECOWAS the ultimate goal is still to convince them to stay, that perhaps they would have tried other avenues and maybe a new leadership would have given them that chance. Isn't this something they should have considered?
Well, that is political, and indeed everything is political. I do not know that they could have done that in such a way that wouldn't mean that, President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria, who is leading them at the time of this disintegration, was to be blamed for, all the HIESA. Now, it would have been up to President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria to step aside. Now, if he wasn't ready to do that, ECOWAS couldn't possibly do that. So that was a tricky one, and one couldn't have expected them otherwise. Now, one of the options left to them, along the line of your reasoning, Nabila, is that the president, the ECOWAS chairman, Bola Tinubu, could now begin to take a back seat in all the negotiations and even public pronunciations. We've seen that a week or two ago when the president of the ECOWAS Court of Justice was the one that actually signaled their consolidated efforts to bring them back to the fold.
So one of the major parts of President Tinubu's speech at the meeting on Sunday of the ECOWAS heads of government and states, one of his major points was around security. He talked about more financing, a better commitment. He talked about the member states also drawing lessons from Nigeria's counter-terrorism center. What sort of joint collaborative effort could we possibly see if these three states, which are also part of the region, have these political differences with the bloc?
The sort of relations, because essentially that is actually what your question points to, the relationship between, the current confederation alliance of, Sahel states and ECOWAS, from which they pulled out. The sort of relations between them is one that has to be negotiated, but it is very obvious, even to the blind, that it is not going to be an easy sort of a negotiation. The situation is very, very precarious because you would know that the security situation, terrorism is very, very high. It's actually at the heart of the three nations that have now formed this alliance. Now, how they are going to be able to manage things such that things don't escalate remains to be seen. Let's not forget that France has pulled out its troops. United States is also demilitarizing and so on and so forth. So they are left even more vulnerable. So it's a matter of negotiation. It's one that is difficult to predict. It's not impossible.
I mean, I hear you, and I'm glad that you brought in the foreign interests, because these are countries that have also courted Russia. And we have seen videos, a lot of the videos, they've not been independently verified by Radio Now, but we have seen indications that there is Russian presence in these states. So do you still maintain that they've been left vulnerable? And if at all this is the case, how much contention do you see between these three states and the rest of the region once again, considering that countries like France, the US, Western allies generally are seen favorably amongst the rest of the bloc?
It's ironical, isn't it, Nabila, that in the statement made by Tiani during the Confederation, protocol signing, he mentioned that the reason, or the major reason, that they are pulling out from ECOWAS and forming the Confederation is actually to, embrace the sovereignty that their different countries were meant to have, and to actually put foreign interference, back in history, and no longer something that should form part of their future. However, there is absolutely no doubt, and we have seen signs of that, that Russia, that has shown itself to be an opportunistic country, has continued to push them forward, has made promises of economic alliance, trade, and so on and so forth. And again, this all boils down to the push for a new world order that China, Russia, and the rest of them are seriously angling for. And so the battleground is now becoming the Sahel region, this current alliance of Sahel states. So yes, it will only escalate the tension or the Cold War between the West, Russia, and then now these Sahel countries joining them.
Well, Mr. Nweke, it's clear that we will have to wait as time unfolds to see what exactly it means, these foreign powers and their indirect tussle, but also for us here in the region. It's clear that there are more implications going forward, and we'll watch and see, and perhaps we'll have a conversation with you at a later date on this matter. Thank you so much for your time and your analysis on the conversation. Collins Nweke is a foreign affairs analyst joining us on News Extra here on Radio Now. We've just discussed President Bola Tinubu's re-election as chairman of ECOWAS in a unanimous vote. This comes despite the exit of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso during his term as a chairman. This is a term that's coming to an end on the 9th of July 2024. We'll bring you more analysis and more updates out of the region as we learn of them.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.